Okay, welcome back to our tutorial series. Today we are going to be talking about some basic Linux commands. We've already talked about some of them, throughout this process, but I just wanted to give a video dedicated to some of the simple ones. We're not going to talk about every command because there are a lot, but we're going to talk about some of the ones that will help you get started navigating your Linux environment a little bit better. So before we jump into the commands, I'm going to go over 3 quick ways of opening WSL instead of just opening it from a regular, from the launcher. We can go navigate to our, directory for PokeEmerald. We can type in WSL and it'll automatically open into our project folder. So that's pretty cool. We don't have to CD there ourselves. We can also shift right click and we can open a Linux shell, which does the same thing. It goes directly into our folder, so we don't have to do anything. And my personal favorite, we can open one in VS Code. So if you don't already have a terminal down here, which you might not, go to Terminal, New Terminal. If you do already have a terminal, and if it's a PowerShell one or something else, you go here. Well, you actually click here, and you can change it. You can add one that is, if you have WSL enabled, you should be able to add a Debian or a Ubuntu WSL terminal. And then you have right here, you have the same thing. This is already in our directory. We can run our commands. We can see these are all of our project files, and we can go through. We can run make from here. If you do it in Visual Studio Code, it might ask you to link something, but it will let you run it nonetheless. So we're going to just use this one here because I like how it looks for the video, but we are going to jump into our Linux commands. So the first one, obvious, is ls. It lists the files and directories inside of the current directory. You can do ls-l, which lists a little bit longer format of all the files, where we can see the permissions, the name of the person, these are file sizes, I believe, the dates that they were created. We can also do ls-a, which will show us any, we can do both, which will show us, you can see this one is a little bit bigger than here because there are these 2 hidden directories right here. And these directories are hidden because the dot is our current directory and the double dot is our previous directory, and we don't need to see them from the ls, but the A will list all hidden files. So if you have files that you need to access and you want to look at them and they're hidden, make sure to add the flag there. So the next obvious one is CD. So we have used CD a bunch before. It stands for change directory, and it lets us move into wherever we want to go. So if we want to move into our PokeEmerald expansion, we can. So again, as I type things, if I type the tab key, it will autocomplete for me, but if there's 2 things of the same name, it'll only autocomplete up till the difference, and then I have to type E, so I have to type the next difference, and now it knows that these are 2 different things, so now it'll let me autocomplete to this. And now I can type ls again, and I can list, and I'm in a different directory. Pretty simple. CD ... like I said, is the last directory, so that'll take us backwards. So if I want to CD ... /... I can go even further. Now I'm in my users directory, but I don't necessarily want to do that, so we're going to CD, and we're going to CD to unit documents decomps, go back into our directory that we were in. Now I'm going to run the clear command. That clears our screen back up to the top. It doesn't delete anything, it doesn't mess with anything, it just clears the screen for you, which is nice to use. I don't like a cluttered terminal myself, so I use it pretty often. But anyway, so we are going to move on to our next command, which is the make directory command, mkdir, and this just lets us create a directory. So we can create a directory called folder1, and if we ls, we can now see folder1 here, and it's highlighted like our other directories, so we can cd into it if we want to. And now we're in an empty directory. Running ls doesn't print anything because there's nothing inside of it. So we can cd back out, and we can move on to our next one, which is the move. Actually, let's talk about touch first. So touch is like make directory, but just for files. So I can touch, and I can create file1.txt, and that will create that file. I can create touch file, and this will create a file just called file. So if we see here file and file1.txt, they're two different files, and Linux, you know, from the command line side, it's going to treat them exactly the same. It's going to treat them however the the function that you're using on it is treating it. So if you're opening it in a text editor, it's going to let you edit it. So even the one without the text, file extension, if we go to Nano, which is just a, text editor that we can save, and exit out, and now if we want to list the contents of that file, we just save that in this file, even though it's not a text file. And I'm going to go over those commands in a second, but yeah, so the touch lets you create files of any name, any extension. It doesn't matter. You just give it the name of the file. So we are now going to talk about move, copy, and remove. These are three commands that we use in conjunction a lot. So move is going to move the file. It's also used for renaming a file. Instead of having a specific rename command, we just use the move command. So here, if we want to rename file into file.txt, we just go file.txt. And it's the file you want to move into the file you are creating. So now if we run ls again, now we have file.txt and file1.txt. Now let's say we want to get rid of that old one. We can remove it, remove file1.txt. And that will remove the file. If we ls again, now it's gone. There's no file anymore. So that is how we remove files using the command line. You can also remove files recursively from a directory using a -r flag, but you want to be careful with that, and I would do that manually if that's what you want to do, just because you can delete a lot of files quickly. The copy command, similar to the move, but it doesn't delete the old file. It's not actually changing the name. It's just copying it into a new file. So we can do file.txt into gibberish.txt, and I spelled that wrong, but it doesn't matter. So now we have the same thing. If we do cat gibberish, now it's again the same thing we had here, even though it's a different file, because we copied it using cp, and again it's the name of the file we're copying into the name of the file we're copying into. Same syntax there like before. So that's move, copy, remove, touch. Cat we've used a couple times there. Cat is going to display the contents of the file inside of our terminal. So like I said, we did the text.txt, or what was it called? File.txt. So file.txt is going to display the contents of the file. And you might be like, why are we doing this? Well, if you want to look at it quickly in the command line, like here's this bash script here that I wrote for Pori script, and we can display it here pretty easily by using cat if we want to read it. And this bash file, just this script, shell script, it replaces all the scripts.inc files with a scripts.pori file while also adding in the raw tags, and it does it automatically. So normally when you're creating your your PokeEmerald decomp project, when you want to edit an existing map script, you have to copy it all in yourself, and it's easy. It only takes 20 seconds, but this does it all. It does it to every single map scripts.inc file in the entire decomp project folder, and it replaces it with a scripts.pori file that has all of the original existing maps, the scripts from the map. From the original scripts.inc files from, like the Littleroot town scripts.inc. We've gone over it in our videos before, but this just does it automatically. And it's actually added onto the README on PoriScript now, if you want to look at that and you're interested. It's in the instructions now, right above the usage section. But anyway, if, let's say I wanted to look at it, I could look at it here. But also, a cool thing with cat, and a big reason why we use it, is we can direct the output of the command into a file. So if I wanted to direct the output of this command, inc.pori, into this file, if I now cat file.txt, now inside of here there's all of this stuff, because it just filled it inside of this file using this little operator here. and it puts it into the file, and now this file has all of the data from the the cat inc.pori. Essentially I just copied it, but there's a lot more that you can do with this operator, and that you can also use the pipeline operator, and it has a similar effect of putting the outputs of scripts into other scripts. Instead of here, this is putting it into a file, but you can link the output of scripts together, which is pretty cool. So that can, we can do a lot of things with that. Here, I actually use that to put inside of these I cat the scripts.inc into the scripts.pori, and that's how I actually add the scripts.inc file into the scripts.pori file. And then I added a raw tag beforehand, and I echoed it, which echoes similar to cat, what we're going to talk about in a second. Well, I'll talk about it right now. Echo, it's just going to display, what you write back at you. If I wanted to echo banana, I meant to echo banana, it echoes banana back at you. So you can take that, you can echo, and using those operators that let you redirect output, we can echo banana, and then we can echo it into file.txt. And now if we go up, cat file.txt, now there's banana down at the bottom here. Pretty cool, pretty cool. That is not what I wanted to do. Here we see the difference between the I use the double and the single here. The double operator is going to add it down at the bottom. The single operator is going to treat it as if you're creating a new file and you want to output the result of the text into the new file. So here there's just banana, and here it adds banana onto the bottom of the file. So that's an important distinction to make when you're using that operator there. Anyway, we talked about echo now, we talked about cat, we talked about clear. Now the next big one is grep. If you're not using VS Code, you're definitely going to be using this a lot, because we're frequently looking for different things inside of our program. So I am going to, actually I'm going to clear first, but we're going to scroll up because I wrote a grep command that I wanted to use as an example. Here it is. So grep is going to let us search through our files and our directories using regular expressions, as well as just straight up text. If you don't know what a regular expression is, don't worry about it. But we can search for strings. We can search for our function names to see where they're called inside of our files. Inside of VS Code, you can just do that in the search bar when you have a folder open. But if you don't, if you're not using VS Code, you're using something like Notepad++, then you're going to be using grep a lot. So if we want to search inside of a folder, we need to use this -r flag, and that lets us search recursively. But if we're just searching inside of a file, you don't need the -r tag. There's also an I flag that we can give it, which is going to ignore case sensitivity. But we're just going to run enter on this command as it is. We're searching for species mudkip, so it's grep, the flags that you're adding, the actual thing that you're searching for, the pattern that you're searching for, the regular expression if you're using regular expressions, which just give you more powerful searching abilities. But for most simple things, you can just type it in directly. And then the place that you're searching it from. This is a directory, so again, we had the -r, but if it's not a directory, you do not need that. We hit enter. We hit enter again, because it didn't work. Okay, so we're going to immediately see new professor, scripts.inc, scripts.inc, scripts.pori. These are the things that I've added in myself that we've been doing in these tutorials. There's species mudkip, buffer species name, set variable, buffer species name, set variable, tutorial.c. These are the C tutorial videos that I was using. I just used this as a dummy, function. There isn't actually a check moves function. I mean, there's probably a check moves function, but it's not called that. These are all of the instances that species mudkip is found in the decomps. Now, it's probably going to run for a second because, again, it's searching recursively through all the files, all the folders inside of our entire PokeEmerald expansion project, which can take a while. You can narrow it down, obviously, if you want to only search inside the source folder. If you're only looking for stuff that's going to be in the C code, you're trying to figure out something in there, obviously you can just change the directory that you're grepping inside of, and there's the rest of our stuff. So trainerparties.h, there's some trainers that have Mudkip. These are the rival battles when we pick Torchic, and things like that. The coordinates of the pictures for Mudkip and everything being assigned, the evolution level, all of the stuff that we see for species Mudkip, because we grep for it. And that's how we are going to, for the most part, do our search stuff inside of our terminal. There's also a find command that lets us find things as well, but grep, I believe, is more powerful. I use find in the bash file that we looked at because I was looking for file names and not necessarily things inside of files, and that's what I would use find for. You just type find and then the directory and then the name of the file. So the last couple things that we're going to do, sudo, we've mentioned before, obviously. Sudo, you type before running a command if you are going to need administrator privileges for the command, basically, root privileges in Linux. And it'll ask you for your password, and allows you to run, things with accelerated privileges. And sometimes you need that for installing things. And things of that nature. If something isn't working for some reason, it says you don't have permissions, you can try using sudo beforehand if it doesn't already suggest it. And then it'll ask you to put in your password, whatnot. But sudo, that's what sudo is. The last two are, other than sudo, are kind of related. So if we are running a bash script, we can do it in two different ways. We can type bash and then the name of the script, Inktoppori, and we can hit enter, and this will run this script. I'm not going to run it because it's not supposed to run in this folder anyway, but I've already ran it, so it's not, something I should do. But we can also type /Inktoppori if it's inside this directory as well. So also, if you add wherever it is to your path, or you add the bash script itself into where the rest of all your script commands are that we can run all of our Linux terminal commands, you can run it just like this, just typing it in, but you have to put in a little bit more work to be able to do that. But / is commonly used. That's what I use the majority of the time, but of course you can also type bash if it is a bash script. So that is how you run bash commands. If you create your bash command, like I originally created this file in Windows, and I needed to get it to run inside of Linux, I was having issues with it. I ended up having to use a command called like DOS to Linux or something, but also I needed to change the permission. So when we looked at our ls-l, we saw here these are the permissions of the files, and this is read, write, execute, read, write, execute, read, write, execute. And these permissions have to do with the different levels of permissions that the different user groups have. And you can look up the permission, the change permission function, the command, and look at the specific examples of what octal numbers you use to change specific words, to change specific permissions. But I don't really have time to worry about any of that most of the time, and I'm not doing anything particularly dangerous most of the time, and I just do chmod plus 777, which is the octal for all of these permissions, all of these permissions, and all of these permissions. And then you do the name of the file name, whatever the file name is, and that just gives your file executable read write permissions for everyone, which can be dangerous, obviously, but at the same time is not that big of a deal, especially inside of the WSL environment. So those are the basic commands that I wanted to talk about. I probably dragged on a little bit longer than I needed to, especially for such simple commands. I'm sure I'm forgetting some. I'm going to end this video, and as soon as I publish it, I'm going to remember 5 different commands that I probably should have talked about, because of course, why wouldn't I talk about them? So if you have any ideas of commands that I left off, make sure to leave a comment, and I'll try to add them into a pinned comment. Otherwise, if you have any questions, make sure to join our Discord. Otherwise, we will see you on the next one.